start off by saying congratulations on this brand new single. We've been playing it on our show now for a little while and we've been getting lots of great feedback, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to hear that.
Now, mate, of course, this single is part of an album that just came out in March. Tell us a little bit about what kind of things were inspiring you when you sat down to put together this album.
Um, we brought an album out in late 2019, and I just kept writing. I think there were so many things that I wanted to write about, and I also had a couple of songs in the backlog, so they really ignited the imagination for a new album, and we just kept going. And then there was a break from confinement here in Spain in early to mid 2020. So we took advantage of that and just started recording the songs. And by the end of 2020, we had a full album ready. And I thought, why not bring it out in 2021-22? So that's what we did.
You said that
started off with a couple of singles in 21, and then the album came out earlier this year. And I have to say, I'm very pleased with the reaction. It's really great all over the world. We're getting a lot of good feedback, which is always very pleasing, to say the least.
That's awesome. You said that you just kept writing after the album before because there was lots of things inspiring you. What kind of things were inspiring you? Was it the world around you, or were you going through?
Well, yeah, I don't write that many love songs, to be quite honest. And also, I think some of the songs are not really based on my personal feelings, but on personal observations and experiences, yes. There's a song on the album, for instance, about tsunamis, which is a theme that I got pretty obsessed about at one point. So I watched lots of tsunami documentaries, and I wanted to write a song about that, about how nature predominates even these days when we think technology is everything, but then again, it isn't, And then there's other songs about self-help gurus, and how to reconnect with nature. Like, sometimes I have these thoughts, which I think I would like to bring to paper, and that's what I do then.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Play Dead. What was the inspiration behind that song?
Play Dead is a song about a woman who used to be very popular when she was younger, and finds it very hard to come to terms with aging and everything that accompanies aging. Like you're not that popular anymore, or maybe your looks don't get you that far anymore. And also you have to deal with motherhood, more responsibilities, less freedom. So the song is a bit about that. And it talks about a point where you're really at a low point in your life. But then there's this voice saying, as the chorus says, beyond the lowest low there is a high, and you're not dead yet. So that's something that you always have to keep in mind. I think it's also a bit subconsciously a note to self, that when you don't feel too well or too loved or too happy in the world, there's always tomorrow, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Definitely. You mentioned before that you recorded a lot of these tracks during a break in the lockdowns in Spain. What was that pandemic time like for you as an artist? I know Spain had some pretty strict lockdowns like we did here. Yes. What was that time like for you?
Oh, I think it was pretty productive because as you couldn't go out, you couldn't do anything. There were no distractions. And luckily, these days you have access to Netflix and YouTube and other channels. So you could watch lots of, not necessarily, series or movies. I was watching a lot of documentaries of stuff that I'm interested in, so I could get a more profound knowledge about certain subject matters. And I think that also somehow influenced the songwriting in a way, gave me a different perspective. And I wrote a lot of songs during lockdown, so we are currently, I think next week we're going to start recording our third album, but I have a fourth album ready already, which I wrote during the lockdown. So I wrote many songs during that period.
And did you find it quite difficult to stay in touch with your fans during that time as well? I know a lot of artists said that one of the things that really hit them during that time was they were not able to perform live. So did you find it difficult to reach out to your fans at that time?
No, not really, because I work a lot through social media, and also I've got a lot of videos. The Permanent Shadow is basically a solo project. So for me, playing live is a bit of a challenge in terms of logistics and also in terms of the economic aspect of it. I don't play live that much, so there was not a huge change for me. It's not that, sometimes we have this romantic idea as a musician that you have to go out and you find your audience in the pubs and in the clubs. It's not my case, really. I concentrate more on studio work, videos, visuals, stuff like that. So there was not a huge change for me involved, as I don't go out and play live a lot anyway.
Yeah, you mentioned that it was a time when you were able to work on a lot of music. Did you actually find that was helped by the fact that suddenly there wasn't other things in the way? Like, I know for myself, I found that my script writing, I got a lot more done because suddenly I didn't have things like friends ringing up and saying, hey, come out for dinner tonight and things like that disrupting me.
Yeah, the Mediterranean culture is very much on the street. You go out a lot. You spend lots of time on terraces, meeting friends, going to the beach, just being out and about. And all that, of course, got stripped away. So what you're left with is basically yourself. And if you're lucky enough, you have a partner that you can share your life with so that you're not completely isolated. And I think the lack of distraction and the lack of possibilities really helps the songwriting a lot.
Yeah.
Because at one point you just get really bored and say, okay, I'm going to write a song, and then I'm going to rewrite this song. And also, I think it helped hone the craft a bit more and be more precise with the wording, because you had a lot of time at hand, and rewriting is a very tedious process. But I think it's absolutely necessary, because the first draft of a song is not necessarily the best.
Definitely. Now, we are going to play the remix of Play Dead in just a few moments. What can you tell us about the remix?
I work with this really great Spanish producer, whose name is Valentin Nieto. And he's actually the guy behind It's Okay DJ, the remixer. And he's very skilled, very funny guy, and he's like a music library. And whenever we do a remix, I say, I would like this to sound like so-and-so a little bit. And he knows exactly what I mean. And, he's got all the, let's say, the technicality down of what is needed to make a song sound like this or like that, which is really great. So I'm not that involved in the remixes. I usually get a draft or a first version, and I will then tweak it a little bit. But it's really his work and his achievement if the remixes are as great as they are, and I like them a lot. Sometimes I like the remixes more than the original version, to be honest.
I was just about to ask, what's that like when you first sit down and listen to a remix of your track? Because it must feel like somebody else has taken your child and tampered with them a little bit. How does that make you feel when you sit down for the first time?
I love it. In general, I collaborate a lot. And over the years, I've learned to become more ego-less than in the past. So I think as an artist, you have to allow other people to play around with your music and with your ideas. Because sometimes, other artists, they're very skilled. They have better ideas than yours. And if you accept that, then I think that the result is just better, And I love remixes. I love other people playing around with my songs and then listening to the results. Not all of them are great, it has to be said, but if they are, they really are. In this case, I think the remix of Play Dead is an absolute improvement to the original.
Is there an artist out there that you dream of being able to work with one day, especially when it comes to remixing your music?
Oh, yeah. Do you remember a band from the 80s called Killing Joke?
Yeah.
They're still going. They were very big, I think, in the late 80s, early 90s, but they're still a going concern. And the bass player, Youth, is a very skilled producer. He has a studio here in Spain, in the south, in Granada. And I would very much like to work with this guy. And he's done some really amazing remixes for other people. I mean, he's worked with Paul McCartney, George Michael, I think he worked in the past as well, with Boy George, with many different artists. I mean, he's like a top-level producer and remixer. But it would be absolutely an absolute delight to work with him.
Awesome. Well, Christian, we are going to play the remix of Play Dead on our show right now. So what would you like to say to everybody out there before they take a listen to this amazing track?
I would like to thank everybody for listening to this song and for giving me their support. I'm a self-managed, self-financed, self-produced artist, and for me it means a lot to get a lot of feedback from people and to get a lot of support. So thank you very much for everybody who's been supportive over the last 4 or 5 years.